I now call to order the August 28th, 2023 Planning and Zoning Board meeting. We now have a quorum. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I'm sorry.
Hearing none, is there a motion to approve agenda as presented?
I make a motion to approve tonight's agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, conflict of interest statement. In accordance with North Carolina Government's Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflict of interest and appearance of conflict, and are instructed to refrain from participating in any matter coming before this board if there is a conflict of interest or appearance of such conflict. If a board member has a known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matter coming before this board today, please identify the conflict and refrain from any participation in the matter involved. Does any member of the board have a conflict of interest in any matter coming before the board today?
Randy, I think I have a conflict with CZRM 2202.
Okay,
My homes. So I'm an adjacent landowner to that.
all right. All right, we need to take a vote on that and need a motion.
I thought, when there was a property across from my property, I thought I was asked the question whether you're going to be speaking as a board member or as a citizen. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm out of line.
Well, it has, if is there I think he feels like there's at least an appearance of a conflict of interest,
Okay.
Correct.
and there may not actually be a conflict of interest, but there is that appearance. And we'll need to take a vote. Is there a motion? Well, I'll make a motion.
Well, I'm sorry, can I say something?
Oh, go ahead.
So, I guess it's to Brent. Were you intending to speak tonight?
I would like to, yes.
Then since he's not a voting member tonight, then could we not just ask him to remove himself from the board when we discuss that case?
Yes, he would, but we still need to vote on
Right.
whether he needs to do that.
Yep.
Since he can't be part of our discussion.
Right.
He'll be just like everyone else out here.
Yep,
Mhm.
that's good.
Okay.
I'll make that motion. That he'll recuse himself from us when we come to 2302.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, when we get to that one, if you would just step down and be part of the public.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the regular minutes of July 24th, 2023?
Make a motion to approve our board meeting minutes from July 24, 2023.
Second.
Okay, any changes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Old business, there is no old business. New business, case number RZ 2304, 709 Main Street, Troutman Commercial Properties, request to rezone 7.5 plus or minus acres located on the north side of Highway 21 across from Royal Oaks Drive from Iredell County RA Residential Agriculture to Town of Troutman HB Highway Business. I'll now turn it over to Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to rezone property. You stated the applicant is Michael Clark. He is representing the Troutman Commercial Properties, who are the owners of the property. This land is currently zoned Iredell County RA, which is residential agricultural. The request is to rezone the property to the Town of Troutman Highway Business. This is a traditional rezoning, so there's no site plan that has been required as part of this submittal. There is an annexation that will be part of this request as well, that council will decide on when this goes before town council. The property is about 7.5 acres in size. It's located here on the east side of Highway 21. As you can see, it does involve 3 separate parcels. This is the land use map for the property. It's currently shown as light industrial. As you can see, this is the Troutman logistics site, which was also annexed into the town and zoned highway or heavy industrial about a year and a half ago. The land use on that is also industrial. Here's the Rocky Creek development across the street, which is mixed use. There's some commercial components to this. Recently, this parcel here was annexed and rezoned for the Tractor Supply. And then on the corner here is the Meadows Apartments. There's also a self-storage going here on this corner, and this intersection is also zoned highway business. After reviewing this application, staff would recommend to the board that you all consider approving this. While this does not necessarily meet the land use plan, which is the document that we use to make most of our decisions, this is shown as heavy industrial on the land use map. However, we do feel that that highway business district will be a good transition between the Troutman logistics industry and the other commercial uses and mixed-use developments going on in that area. So we would recommend rezoning based on that it does fit the land use character of this area, which has been changing in the last few years. Have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you, Lynn. Does the applicant want to speak at this time, or?
I do not know that he's here this evening.
Okay. The public is invited to address the planning board with comments or concerns. Public comment is limited, time is limited to 3 minutes per individual. Speakers are required to sign in at the podium and are required to adhere to planning board policy titled Policy Governing Comments from the Public at Planning Board Meetings. Okay, so I now open the meeting up for public comment. And this will apply to all of the rezonings and our UDO changes. So, is there anyone who would like to speak on this application? Okay. Kim, was there anything sent in? Okay, thank you. I will now close the public comment time. Are there any comments from the board? Okay. All right. Is there a motion regarding rezoning RZ 2304?
I make a motion that we rezone case number RZ-2304 as requested to highway business.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will need a motion regarding consistency statement for RZ 2304.
Rezoning to highway business is consistent with the 2035 future land use map and with the current land use pattern of the area. The request is consistent with the currently adopted Unified Development Ordinance. The request is reasonable and in the public interest as it proposes to allow commercial development in areas of Troutman where it is appropriate.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Brent, we're getting ready to hear the... Okay, case number CZRM 23-02, MI Homes, representing Sterling Properties, request to rezone 49.62 plus or minus acres located on Autumn Leaf Road adjacent to Quail Haven subdivision to the west from the town of Troutman RS suburban residential to the town of Troutman CZRM mixed residential. I will now turn it over to Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, MI Homes is coming before this evening with an application to rezone property from town suburban residential. This is in our ETJ. They're requesting that this property be conditionally rezoned to mixed residential. The property is approximately 50 acres in size, just a little bit under 49.62. They're requesting it be rezoned to allow them to develop the property for 77 single-family detached residential lots. The property's highlighted here on red on the screen. It fronts Autumn Leaf Road here. It also is backing up to the Quail Haven subdivision in this area, as you can see on the map. This is the property is zoned RS as well as other properties in the area. Quail Haven is zoned RT. The difference between these two zonings is RS allows lots that are 20,000 square feet. In RT, lots can be as small as 10,000 square feet. So that's the difference between those two zoning classifications. The development to the south here, the CZRM, is Calvin Creek, and this is the same zoning classification that the applicant is requesting this evening. The land use map does show this property to be developed for low-density residential, as well as surrounding properties. In the orange here, this is medium density, so it's a little bit higher, but this is low density being shown on the site in question. This is the concept plan that was submitted as a part of this request. With conditional zonings, we do require a concept plan that can be reviewed by the board, by the council. As you can see, it's a 77-lot subdivision. What they're requesting is to be allowed to build the exterior lots at the 20,000 square feet, which is the minimum lot size in the RS development, or excuse me, RS zoning classification, which is the current underlying zoning. They are requesting that the interior lots be allowed to be smaller at 8,400 square feet. With these lot sizes and the number of acres on the site, it brings the density of the project to about 1.5 units per acre. There's 15.5 acres of open space. They're also suggesting that 75 feet of the project boundary be dedicated as a buffer on the north and the west boundaries where it's adjacent to existing single family. And then a 25 project boundary buffer would be placed to the south and to the north. They're also agreeing to place a 4-foot chain link fence on the north and south where adjacent to the Quail Haven subdivision and existing neighborhoods. Community meeting is required with the conditional zoning process. This meeting was held by the applicant on July the 12th. There were many neighbors there that evening, and the concerns mainly surrounding the development that evening were traffic. There was a concern with connectivity that is being made to the Quail Haven development, which is a requirement of the town. They're also concerned about future connectivity to the property to the north and any liability that may be associated with the Quail Haven Pond as this new development may be connected to their subdivision. They made changes to the plan based on these comments, and the items that they included in their new plan are shown on the concept plan that was just presented to you. They did do a traffic impact analysis that was required as part of this development. That is an ordinance requirement. This was completed. It's also been reviewed by NCDOT. DOT is recommending that there be a dedicated left turn lane into development off the bottom leaf, a right turn lane into the development off the bottom leaf, and then internal right and left turns at the entrance onto Autumn. It was noted the traffic counts for the project were done incorrectly, that there were some traffic counts that were done while school was on spring break last year during the week in March. Not all traffic counts were done during that time, but there were a couple that were done during that period. We notified NCDOT because this is a requirement of NCDOT, not the town. The traffic counts be done while school is in session. We also notified the applicant that this was a concern, and they went back, they redid the counts, and they also took into account the reduction in the number of units because they went from 91 units to 77. So they have noted those changes, and I'm sure that they will address that in their report as well. Based on the changes that the applicant did make, I did want to note that this plan was originally 91 total units. They all were that smaller size. After that community meeting, the applicant did take into consideration comments that they heard there, and then went back and they redrew this plan. And based on what they've done, staff feels that it does meet the land use plan definition for low density residential. I've got that definition on the screen for you. Basically says it's predominantly intended for single family residential lots, and intense subdivision development is not recommended due to water supply concerns and a lack of infrastructure. Densities are typically less than 2 units per acre of land. The in a major subdivision, which is more than 5 lots. And they also encourage a variation of lot sizes, housing types, and price points are strongly encouraged. So we felt like the two main things in the definition were that were met, were the less than 2 units per acre and the variation of lot sizes. So staff is recommending approval this evening. The applicant is here as well and has a presentation for you. I can also answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Lynn. If the applicant wants to go ahead with their presentation, unless someone has questions for Lynn right now, I think we'll wait. Go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members. My name is Eddie Moore with McAdams. We are a land development design firm assisting MI Homes with this rezoning. With us tonight, with MI Homes, Jeremy Horton, Cody Semino, Becca Monteith, and Derek Stable. Derek and I are going to go a little bit back and forth with the presentation. We'll give a little bit of information about MI Homes and also the proposed dwellings for this neighborhood. And so for here, I'm going to hand it to Derek, and then I'll come up and go over the site itself.
We can't hear. You need to speak up.
Yes, ma'am.
Back.
Do we have a mic up here?
I can talk loud.
I'll work on it.
She's going to try
I
to
can,
get
I can talk a
us.
bit louder. That's all right.
She's going to try to get us a mic.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for having us out tonight. Again, my name's Derek Stobble. I work with MI Homes in the land acquisition department. Can you guys hear that okay? No. So a little bit about MI Homes, the company itself. So MI Homes is one of the nation's leading home builders. We're number 13 out of Builder 100. We were founded in 1976. We went public in 1993. However, the owners of MI Homes have stayed active and involved with the company, and I like to think we're kind of a national builder that functions like a small local builder. We're allowed to make local decisions and create product based upon markets that we're going into, and not just a kind of a big umbrella. We started selling, MI Homes is selling in 200 communities in 16 markets right now across the country. We have a diversified customer base. We sell to both first-time, move-up, and also active adult buyers. We have entered 2 new markets. We entered in Nashville and Naples the past 2 years. So that's a little bit about MI Homes.
Thank you, Derek.
Yes, sir.
We'll move to the side. If you don't mind if I turn the podium, maybe.
Oh,
I think we
she's got a mic.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Lynn has done a great job of giving the description of the property location. Not gonna go into that anymore. The zoning, we are requesting conditional mixed residential. Here on the map, you can see that we do have other similar zonings that are in proximity to the site, and Calvin Creek to the south is contiguous to our site. Whenever the Troutman strategic plan, the land use plan, and it's a little interesting in the map because we do, this is it's a donut hole of low density residential that's being recommended for this site, kind of a more medium density residential along the east and the west. One thing I did do is just kind of wanted to point out that the items that are highlighted, we are requesting single family. Our density is less than 2 to the acre. There will be a variation of lot sizes, housing types, and price points. And kind of just want to talk a little bit about what has been approved in the area and what we're proposing. Brookside, same zoning, a little over 2 to the acre, and those lots are only 52 feet wide. Calvin Creek, same zoning, we're requesting density of 1.8. They do have varying lot sizes at 55 and 70 feet wide. Falls Cove, which is south of Autumn Leaf, that's zone CZRS, but that density is 1.9. Their lot sizes are greater than 60 and over 90 feet. And then the Rocky Creek 1 and 2, more of a mixed use of, they do have townhomes, and they also have single family lots at 52 and 64. Our proposal for Cowan Mills, the density is less than those that are around us. We do have varying lot sizes. They do start at 65 feet wide, and we do have lots that are over 100 feet in width. So we feel that we are meeting the intent of the town strategic plan. We did have the community meeting back in June. These are some of the highlights of the items, and I'll show this to you on a plan. A lot of folks came out, a lot of folks are here this evening, and we've taken those items definitely into consideration. We've made those tweaks to the plan, and also some of the input that staff did have. We have incorporated that into the layout. The lot count has been reduced from 91 to 77, so we're looking at a 15% reduction. Increased 29 lots to a half acre or greater, and they're primarily along the perimeter of the site. We are proposing a 6-foot fence instead of a 4-foot fence. This came up, we are proposing 3 open spaces, active open spaces, and there were concerns from the neighbors of folks not knowing where the property boundaries are. So Emma said, okay, we'll go ahead and put a fence. It's about 1,900 linear feet of fence, and I'll show you what that is. And also along the perimeter, along the north and western boundaries, 75 feet deed restricted buffer along those lots. Active space, there was concern of having active space very close to a property line, so we have added some tree save, and we do have a fence in addition to that to keep that away from one of the property owners. And vinyl is not a primary building material, so that has been taken off the list. This is our initial plan where we did have 91 lots, and just to orient you, here is Autumn Leaf Road. We are proposing an entrance here. We do have some creek features and buffers that run north and south, and then there's another one, a little leg of it that goes east and west. We are proposing a connection to Quail Haven Drive at this location. That connection is there, and to help with connectivity, we did make that connection. That'll help with the east-west, a different way to get east-west in this part of town. Some of the changes that we did make, we were asked to, can we just go ahead and provide a 75-foot buffer, and which we have done that on the plan. You'll see that. So we do have a 75-foot buffer along this side here. The red arrows, they represent the locations of the 6-foot fence that will be installed. And there's also concern of the existing vegetation within the 75-foot buffer. We've gone ahead and done a preliminary grading exercise, and we've identified certain areas that we have called out on the plan that we are able to preserve as part of this development. And then the property owner to the north was very concerned of the location of this stub street. We have relocated that to a different portion of the site. So here's our revised plan. The 29 half-acre lots are all along the perimeter area here. The connection point to Autumn Leaf is the same. We do still have the same connection to Quail Haven Drive. The internal lots at approximately 8,400 square feet, they're all internal to the site. Here, and along this area. So some of those highlights, we have increased that buffer all the way to 75. These lots will be deed restricted when it comes to what can and cannot be cleared within these lots. We have added the fence. You see this dotted line here. And we've incorporated some additional tree save in this location here to make our open space. So we do have that fence that's all the way around. And the areas that you see here, these areas are the result of our preliminary study, grading study of some existing trees that we will be able to save as part of this development. And the connection point that was at this location here, we have moved it to this piece of property here that is currently vacant. We do have 3 active open spaces on the site. They're a little bit different from our proposal. The first one that we do have is more of just sort of a pocket park where we do have 4 lots that will face that area, seating areas, landscaping. Before I get into the other examples, you'll notice we are proposing a natural trail that will connect this cul-de-sac, cross over this street, connect here, and then another natural trail here. So the second area that's in this portion of the property, this will be for a tot lot seating area, landscaping, as well as the natural trail. And the third area that's in this area will be designated for a gazebo, fire pit, seating areas, landscaping as well. And we'll definitely work with town staff for the final programming of these areas. From here, we're going to hand it back to Derek, and he'll go over the homes themselves, and then I'll wrap it up here in a second. Thank you.
Thank you. So MI has just developed a new series of homes. This would be one of the first communities we hope to build this in. It's a 50-foot wide product. There are 6 plans, and there's a mixture of plans have the primary bedroom on the main level, and then the other half have the primary bedroom on the second floor. All the homes will have a guest bedroom down, so we will, I think, provide housing for, first-time move-up and move-down buyers as well. The homes are all different. Each home has 6 different elevations, so when you look at the house, this house would have 6 different style fronts. We also have 14 different style color packages, so we try to limit the repetitiveness that I think a lot of people talk about a lot of times. We are doing overhangs on all the roof lines. All the homes are going to have porches and flexibility to add a third car garage as well. So that's one of the homes right there. So again, that's a different floor plan. That's not necessarily a color. We've had some comment on that color package. That's not necessarily a color package we would offer. That's an artist rendition. So, but again, we feel like the mixed use of materials, stone, brick, the cementitious siding, which is everybody knows as hardy board, are going to be included on all the homes. And the homes are going to range from about 2,700 square feet to around 3,700 square feet. And I know we're going to question pricing. What is that going to start at? So we feel like today's market, these would start at least in the low 5s and go up from there.
Thank you, Derek. And
Yes, sir.
in closing, these are just some highlights of some of the conditions that we have agreed to. This is not a comprehensive list. It is a conditional plan, so we have to follow that conditional plan. If there are major changes to that plan, we'd have to come back through this process again. We are requesting a max of 77 lots with a density no greater than 1.55. Talked about the 29 lots at the half acre, so almost 40% of the lots will be at a half acre. The average lot size that we do have is over 14,000 square feet, so over a third. So we do have that varying range. Talked about the deed restriction, the buffer and the fence. 15% of the site will be set aside as tree safe, and 31% of the site as open space. Talked about the exterior building materials. Vinyl will not be offered as a primary building material, and whenever there's active open spaces. So from here, we appreciate your time. I'll leave the site plan up and be glad to answer any questions, and the team will be glad to answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do y'all have any questions?
Yes. Eddie, yes? Hi. When you had your community meeting, did the residents of Quail Haven have any concerns about where your construction entrance would be?
We did talk about that, and I think we did agree that it would come off of Autumn Leaf and not through their neighborhood.
Okay.
Could you go in more specific about the buffer on the north, the 75-foot buffer?
Yes, sir. We initially, when we had the other plan, we were able to offer a buffer that would just be part of open space.
Mm-hmm.
In order for us to get the half-acre lot sizes, we needed to include that space into the lot sizes. So we still have that space, and the buildable footprints are the same as we did have before. A little bit larger, of course, for the half-acre lots, but each one of these lots that front, I guess, this northern boundary and this western boundary, all these lots will be deed restricted. as to folks they cannot go in, you know, the vegetation that is left, they can just do some minor clearing, they cannot go out, so there will be deed restricted where they are not able to remove those trees that are kept.
And that would be, is there gonna be an HOA?
Yes, it will.
Yeah, so coming out of sales, so when we sell a home, we review with the prospective buyers HOA documents, any of this information, for example, a deed restriction. So let's say that you're buying a home, you would have to sign a document saying you understand you're deed restricted and you can't clear beyond a certain area. So that's in the contract. It's also part of the HOA documents as well.
Now, if they want to go in and plant grass, you know, things like that, then that's still fine, but they will not be able to, you know, once we identify and do the final grading and identify these areas that are on the plan to keep those existing trees, they'll be required to stay.
Now, on your typical lot dimensions, there is something showing that, and the buildable area is, you can build all the way up to that buffer, or that 75 foot. You can build all the way up to it, which means you're gonna be using that
Well,
property.
that's just to show this slide here. So this is what we're looking at here. This is just to show what is the buildable area. It's 76 by 105 feet. The building footprint's not going to be 76 by 105 feet. This is just to show with all the setbacks, the actual constraints of those lots. So it will be able to fit there. This is just to show, okay, this is the actual buildable pad. And with a 50-foot wide product, especially on these wide lots, it's, you know, we'll have some pretty good setbacks in between homes. I think here, 28, I mean, setbacks for a 50-foot wide product, a 28-foot setback on each side.
Well, I was more referring to the back.
Right, again, but it's 105 feet deep. These homes are not 105.
So the homes are 55 feet deep. So you're going to have an extra 45 feet beyond that. That building pad, let's say someone wanted to come in and build like a shed or a storage shed, something like that. That would allow them to build up to that part on the home site, but the house itself isn't going to be anywhere near that deep.
They can't go past the buffer?
That's correct. It'll be deed restricted.
If there's an actual buffer, then they'd have to be from the setback of that buffer.
Well, hold it. Well, we'll open public comment. Now we're just discussing. So it kind of seems problematic to me. Who's gonna monitor this and see that this happens? I've never seen it done this way before. It just seems problematic. Do you have any other experience with this kind of thing?
I mean, we have other communities that we sell in, and the homeowners can't go, but it's so deep. But there's nothing that I can talk about right now and go to and say, hey, this is a neighborhood that we have that we've done this in. We did this to try to maintain that buffer and give some of the connecting families the buffer so that we wouldn't clear up to the property line.
Well, the original one had a 75-foot buffer, so that it didn't change other than it's owned by the property owner, which is more problematic than the 75-foot buffer, in my
Go
opinion.
back to the previous plan. Sorry, I cut you off. I just wanted to
Yeah,
have that up there for
right there it is. Yep. So that would be part of the HOA, and the fence line could be at the back of the lots instead of the outside property line, because that's happened before and that worked pretty good. That keeps people from encroaching on the buffer.
Well, on the actual plot, it'll have that buffer on that plat. So I mean, it's
That's,
when that title's, you know, when that house is sold, they're signing a document saying they can't clear beyond that area because it's a recorded restriction, you know, for the deed itself.
I understand that, but I also know that it will happen. People will just do it. And then once it's done, it's done.
Well, and that's what the HOA would do. They would get involved and they would find them. They would make them replace the trees, and the HOA would monitor that.
I know that Falls Cove has a very similar, and within their HOA, they can only go back so many feet in their property, and they have to have the woodland there, and so I know that their HOA does it, but I think it would be very difficult to make sure that an HOA maintains that. They're very strict with their HOA, so.
I don't know how much effect the HOA would have, because I've seen them not be able to do certain things, and structures are built in the neighborhood, and the HOA, I don't know whether they fine them, and I don't know.
And I also noticed that part of this is actually in wetlands. It looks like the lots are in, it's counted as part of the buffer. That could be problematic too.
I think the only area we had may have been,
Down in there.
maybe right through here.
Yeah, down in there.
This is pretty typical, to actually have buffer areas of a stream as part of the lot. That'll also be counted as part of, it's a required width. I think it's a 100-foot wide buffer from the stream.
Right.
That still, that will be part of that document as well for those lots.
Yeah, well, I was looking at your typical lot, and really, it went from 21,730 square foot to 13,780 square foot when you deduct the 7,950 square foot for the 75 foot. So your lot size, I mean, you're saying you're making a lot an acre, but it's really very little difference other than the width than what you had before. There's not a whole lot of difference, really.
Sure, I understand that completely. I guess it's something we could look into if that's, we would be reducing the lot sizes at this point moving forward. You'd have that 75-foot buffer be free and clear of the lots.
Yeah, you're reducing the size in which you're saying that they can't do anything with it anyway, so really, that's less problematic than.
Yes, I mean, that's something we can definitely look at, because, as you can see, it's a very faint line here. Up in
The
the
only
air.
thing I see this accomplishing, it allows you to change your verbiage as to the lot sizes, those 22 lots.
Yes,
Now
correct.
larger.
Yes, sir.
That's all that's accomplished.
Yes, correct.
Any other questions?
I've got an off-the-wall question. After the difference of the TIA, how did that affect your number of homes? And also, you're saying the average is $500,000. What was it when it was 91? Just out of curiosity.
Let's do that two parts. I don't know if you guys want to speak to what those may be, but we do have Nick Burns, who conducted the TIA. We do have an updated traffic impact analysis. So I guess it's a two-part question.
Well, I'm not really worried about the price of the house,
Okay.
but I know the people of the town is worried about the TIA.
Sure.
So I would like to know how your adjustments affected the
Yeah.
TIA.
We'll have Nick
Just
come-
out of curiosity.
Sure, we'll let Nick come up. He revised the TIA as of date of today with the new counts. We'll school him. So Nick will walk through that.
Good evening. Nick Burns with Impact Designs. We did the traffic impact study. The biggest thing with these is these are all scoped through DOT and the town. So we don't pick which intersections we look at, or we don't send the traffic a certain way. It's all approved through DOT and the town. So there were 3 intersections out of the 5 that had, excuse me, counts that were done during spring break. So we redid those. And there wasn't a large difference between the 2 that we had before and the 3 new ones. So we plugged those in, and then we reduced the new home count, and the results were essentially the same. They were within 1.5 seconds everywhere, up and down. And then just a point of clarification. on autumn leaf. And Lynn, these arrows can be confusing. So those left and right arrows, those are possible movements. Those aren't turn lanes. So you can now turn left and right where you couldn't before. So there wouldn't be left and right turn lanes on autumn. You could just now make that movement into the adult. That's what those arrows are for. And DOT agreed with that.
That's what they said? Okay.
Now,
So
the-
not adding a turn line at all, it's just that now they can.
They can now make the movement, yes.
It's still a, so one lane, it's a two-way street, so you'd still stop, and then turn left.
Back into the traffic.
Correct.
so that curve that it comes out in, I guess,
Sight distance.
That's
You
a
check your
site distance thing, yeah, and they wouldn't be able to put it there unless it met the site distance. And that's more Eddie, that's probably a.
We looked at what would give the greatest site distance, and it did come out at this location here. And it's over, taking where we have to make that measurement and staying in the road bed, we have over a 400-foot site distance to the right with the curve.
excuse me, y'all have to wait until we open
And
the
Mr.
public
Chair, that
hearing.
dimension is actually on the plan that you have. It's kind of hard to see with the color rendering, but it's located there.
I'm sorry, the meeting's being recorded, so when you speak out, it's hard to go back and listen to this recording.
Here. Okay, this is what you're talking about.
Yes, sir, we have a dimension that's there that actually shows what that site distance, or the site distance is.
Based on you visually did this, or did you visually go out here and look at this, or did you just draw it?
This was, the road's not, we didn't survey the road, but this was taken from the point that we did survey the property line and looking at the road bed as to what is going to give us the most site distance.
Okay, well, I mean, just by looking at this here, the topography is gonna be where your existing road is, the way it's coming down and going in your S curves, you're gonna have an issue. And I'm looking at a flat piece of paper.
Sure.
And it works on a flat piece of paper. Out in the field, it's gonna be to where you've got to be able to provide that, which means that there's going to be, in staying within the existing right-of-way, and staying in the existing DOT right-of-way means that you have to stay within the roadbed of it, because you can't consider the vegetation outside unless you want to mow it every week. So the safety of that intersection and that location is going to be very difficult. A field survey would probably be highly requested at that location to verify, because that's probably, I don't know what the 60% was coming out of that main entrance, something like that. And I look at the trip distribution and looking at that, but I don't see, based on what I can see, you're in and out of the roadbed based on the line. You're within the right of way. Yes, ma'am.
Becca Monteith at My Homes. I believe we've done a study on this, and we can provide that, the engineering behind it, we can provide that to you.
Visual, topographical?
Yeah. we should.
Okay, cool.
And I want to ask one other question about how that affected the change in lot sizes. So what we did was we actually changed our product. Originally, we were looking at a 40-foot wide product, which are 3 and 4 bedroom homes. We've now gone to a 50-foot wide product, which are now 4 and 5 bedroom homes. So it's a whole different style house. It's a larger home, which would also be sold at a higher price point. So we went from a 40-foot wide to a 50-foot wide home. And actually, this is, like I said, this product is something we're just now developing, and a lot of our development work at the very end has been kind of geared towards, you guys here and making you guys happy with the product we're building. It works with you.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is there any more questions? All
Do we
right,
have, sorry, do we have a current, the new TIA?
We do not have the updated one, no ma'am.
Do we have a timeline for when the town can expect it?
I sent it over this
Oh, it
morning.
was attached? Okay, I apologize. We did get the email today saying that it had been updated. I did not realize. I guess it was a link. Okay.
Okay, I just
So
want to
we
make
do
sure.
have it. Okay.
Town has it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
In regards to the traffic study, you just made reference to the homes and the number of bedrooms in the homes,
Mhm.
and that increasing with the new product. Is that taken into consideration with the traffic study?
It's a good question. So how we have to do these is there's a central manual we use for trip generation. It's the IT trip generation manual. And it's a series of studies of multiple developments throughout the nation. And they have different use types: single-family homes, townhomes, apartments, industrial. And we've got a logarithmic graph that they plot all the points on. So whether it's the number of bedrooms, it's all averaged into a number of homes. So whether it's got 3 or 4, it doesn't typically vary. It's just the number of single-family homes, because it's all averaged out. They've had neighborhoods of 3-bedroom houses in there, neighborhoods of 6-bedroom houses. So it's just averaged in there together, and that's what DOT has us use.
Yep. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else?
When it's turned over to the HOA, is there going to be anything in the restrictions as to the number of vehicles that can be parked at a home?
We restrict parking on the streets. Yeah. So we do restrict parking on the street, so they'll have to be either in the garage or in the driveway. So if HOA catches people parking on the street, they get a letter. And if they don't answer the letter, then it's no letter.
So it's restricted to what will fit in the garage and in the driveway?
Well, it's what, no overnight parking or lengthy stays. Obviously, if you were coming over and visiting, you would park on the street, but, for any overnight visits or stays, that would be, the neighbors are gonna call and complain about it, and then we would call HOA. We would manage the HOA until the community is built out, so we would monitor that, but that is something that HOA does have to, they would deal with that if you had a homeowner that was leaving the car parked on the side of the road.
That's naturally gonna be an issue, because if you're going from 3 to 4 bedroom homes to 4 to 5, and the garage is gonna have two in the driveway, that's 4. If you got a 4 or 5 bedroom house, you could possibly have 4 cars 24/7, so that's just a natural concern about, and I've seen HOAs not being able to put no teeth into people parking overnight. I know what you're saying, it's not supposed to be, but it happens. That's just why we're asking these questions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've worked in several neighborhoods, and smaller neighborhoods have the same issue. People have 3-bedroom house, but they're gonna have 4 hot cars as well. I mean, it's people living in the house, so it's I mean, that's a good question, but I feel like, we're working with you guys. We're trying to change our product and our layout to fit what you're asking us to do. And by going to the larger house, it was just on the larger home sites. Was what we chose to do.
And the setbacks will be the same?
Yes, with minimum setbacks. Here's just the cross-section of the 60-foot residential street that we're required to build in the neighborhood. It does have 30 feet of pavement, excluding the additional 4 feet of the curb and gutter. So this is a pretty wide pavement section where there can be informal on-street parking along one side and still have the ability for cars travel to and from.
And some of them, you said, there's a possibility of a third car garage?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It would actually be, it's like an add-on. So basically, if you're looking at the front of the house, it would be an additional garage to the right of the, or the left of the house, depending upon which way the garage is turning. There, just like that there.
Oh, I see one.
Yeah.
You said no curb and gutter?
No, excluding the 30 feet pavement,
Oh,
excluding
okay.
the 4-foot curb and gutter.
I'm sorry.
Total.
Sorry.
They
Now,
only park on one side of the street, right?
Yeah, there's enough, there is enough room. Again.
On one side of the street.
Yes, if there is parking on one side of the street. Yes, sir. Yes, sidewalks will be on both sides,
On both sides?
both sides of the street, yes, sir.
so do certain houses or certain type houses or certain size houses have the third bedroom, not bedroom, third car garage? How does that work?
So that would be an option that we would allow families to choose when they purchase a home.
For any home? Any home can get a third car?
The larger lots.
The larger home sites
Okay.
are able to house a third car garage. Yeah. And we feel like that's a benefit because, again, people aren't using their garage as storage and parking their cars and driving on the street. So this would, if you did a third car, it would allow you to put the stuff that you can't fit in the garage and park cars in the garage. So it's something we're going to probably use. Most houses that we can, we'll probably add the third car garages on.
Now, does somebody buy them and then you build them, or do you build them?
So typically what we do now is we release, say, a section of 6 or 8 home sites. Our office chooses the home, they choose the elevation, and they choose the outside color typically. So what that does, it keeps us mixing. You don't have the same house side by side across the street. So kind of our rule of thumb is if you were looking at a particular home site, you have to skip 2 empty lots. The third can be the same. Across the street, you have to go across the street, skip 2 lots in the third home. So by the time you do 2 or 3 houses the same on the road, it ties that street up so you can't repeat that. So when we release the homes, our sales manager will choose the house elevation, and on these larger home sites, I mean, this is a new product for us, so I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen because this is new for us, but we would more than likely add the third car garage on any of the home sites that would allow that, because that's a big feature that a lot of people like to have.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we will now open the meeting up for public comment. And please, anyone, when you get ready to speak, state your name, sign. You got 3 minutes. And please be respectful and don't talk other people while other people are speaking. Okay, anyone who'd like to speak, please.
Yes. I don't have a presentation, but let me give you guys this. Some of it's outdated, talking about doing TAs and spring break training. But, and I think I have a copy of these as well. I won't bore you with everything that's in there. We could read it later, but the first thing that's on there on page 1 is talking about that 75-foot deeded buffer. It's essentially zero buffer, right? It leaves the burden for enforcement on the property owners that surround it. The HOA is going to have very little power to actually do anything about what's there. Even one of the people behind me here said that the people would be free to landscape in that area, right? Plant grass or whatever the comment was there. So it is essentially zero buffer. The UDO requires 25-foot buffer at a minimum. There had been a previous agreement to a 75-foot buffer. This was done, as someone already pointed out, it's just wording, right? They're making an attempt at making larger lots by moving that what had been a buffer into the lot sizes around the perimeter. I mean, to me, as an adjacent property owner, it's a no-go, right? It's a problem. It's in conflict with our UDO. It doesn't have the 25-foot buffer, and it puts the burden of enforcement on me and the other property owners surrounding it. So, I guess that's the first thing I want to talk about. Second thing that's on there talks about the traffic analysis being done during spring break, but that's no longer relevant. The other thing that's on there, and you guys have heard this 1,000 times, genuinely, Autumn Leaf Road cannot take more traffic, right? There are 3 very big problem areas on there. As somebody that goes down toward the state park on occasion, I've been almost run into in the lower curve down there the last 2 times that I've gone down there. And every time it's been someone with a construction trailer running wide in that corner. So, and not to mention all the other infrastructure issues that we have, right? The TIA, which looks to be not recommending any improvements to any of our intersections, doesn't account for the load that's going to go into those roads that need to be dramatically improved. The third thing that I had on there is environmental impact. So on my property currently, in those streams, there are a lot of different, there's fish and there's frogs and there's salamanders and a lot of other animal, deer and fox. There used to be turkeys. Since we started a lot of the construction to the lower part of us, the turkeys have disappeared. A lot of the other homeowners back here probably tell you the same thing. I want to preserve that stuff as best I can, not only on my property, the surrounding properties, on this property, right? And this is going to make that completely go away. The 2 stormwater treatment areas that are there at the bottom, those are going to collect all of the chemicals that come from this neighborhood, right? So your runoff from cars, fertilizer, etc. Right? All those things. U.S. Geological Survey will tell you that those are good for catching about 50% of it. The rest of it ends up in those creeks and ends up downstream in our rivers, in our lakes. The whole system there is just not good for us. It's not good for Troutman. I would tell you this whole development is not good for Troutman, and I would ask you not to approve it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Ralph Degenhardt. I own property directly across from the property in question. Autumn Leaf Road is, as you well know, is a 2-lane road. It's 1.8 of a mile long. It borders Highway 115, US 21 on the eastern side, and then of course the western side is Perth Road. Both of these roads are very heavily trafficked. For some time, Autumn Leaf Road has had a number of about 60 houses or more along that 1.8 mile. Some of those go back a number of years. I grew up in one that was built, a house that was built in 1936 or 7. So a lot of those houses are older, but of course there's been some steady growth over the years. But in just the very recent few years, the last couple of years, with the 2 developments on the Perth Road side, there's 1,000 houses that the town council has approved to be built. I don't believe at least half of them are built yet, and but they're being built now. I hope you understand the problems with the traffic, even though the traffic analysis didn't seem to think so. I beg to differ. But that many homes in this small area, I think, causes a traffic problem. And now these developers are asking for 77 more homes to be built. And they're on small lots, as these other developments are, maybe a maximum of 20 feet apart. So I really don't think we need any more growth on Autumn Leaf Road at this time. If I would recommend that you, to the town council, that no change be made in the zoning. If it does need to be changed, I recommend you change the density to a lower density instead of a higher density. That's my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Waldman, and I am a homeowner on Quail Haven Drive. I purchased that home because it had a cul-de-sac. I don't want 77 homes coming through. And with all of these people talking about Autumn Leaf being crowded, where are they going to go? Quail Haven. We also have a pond right where that cul-de-sac is, where they would join to. And us as homeowners and our homeowners association is responsible for that pond. Should somebody drown in that pond, who's responsible for it? The 27 homes in our neighborhood are responsible for it. And to have 77 homes coming through, that makes that pond a whole lot more visible. And if you've got homes with a bunch of kids, which 5, 6 bedrooms are going to be a bunch of kids, they're going to realize they got a great fishing hole and swimming hole. I don't want them coming through Quail Haven. It will lower the property values on our street because of that. We have a hard enough time getting out on Perth as it is, and then to have all these cars coming up and down, it isn't going to be a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Susan McAllen. I am also a resident of Quail Haven Drive. I've been a resident now for 14 years. It's a beautiful neighborhood. It's 28 homes. We know each other fairly well. We look after each other. Opening up that street to 77 more houses, as Michelle has indicated, is going to destroy our neighborhood. We're going to have more traffic. We're going to have more people walking up and down our sidewalks, more opportunities for trash as people drive by and throw things out the window. We have a clean neighborhood right now. Our street is quite narrow. It is a 2-lane street, but it's quite narrow. We're going to have cars speeding up and down that road. And I did not hear anything today about how the connection to Perth Road is going to be handled. Across the street from Perth Road, just across the street from our development and just slightly over is another development, Georgie Street, that comes out. There's no traffic lights there. And I, again, have heard nothing addressed about how the traffic's going to be handled. This connection to our road when school starts is going to be a great opportunity for other people outside of this development and our development to cut through to get their kids to the elementary and middle schools. I am opposed to connecting to Quail Haven Drive and opening up our cul-de-sac. You're going to ruin our beautiful neighborhood as well as our home values. Thank you.
Thank you.
Randy, before we go further, there's one, I want to make sure everybody's signing in that has spoken. Yeah, okay. And then there's a second, another rule that I didn't hear, and I forgive if you said it. If you hear somebody speak on a specific topic, and you have those same thoughts or topic, for the sake of time, let's not repeat those. If somebody's already voiced your concern and you feel they've voiced it appropriately, then don't come back up and repeat that, okay?
And if you have already said that, I apologize, but I didn't hear that.
No, I didn't, but, you know, if you have something to add, that's fine.
Good evening, Dan Heiser, 235 Autumn Leaf Road. As you can see on the corner there, the very sharp where the entrance is going in, that's my house, that's my shop. These are my property lines. As I got off the Iredell County website, okay? It has not been surveyed, so that would be the ultimate goal, right? But they want water and sewer to run right through my front yard. And I don't see how that is possible with what I have here today, okay? Number 2, anybody traveled down Autumn Leaf Road? Raise your hand. Everybody has, right? So then you've been through that. Barry, you been down there?
No.
Okay, you should go. I invite you. Okay? You can come sit right in front of my property. Okay, good. Okay, on that corner, where that road intersects my property, very dangerous. I have them through my driveway to my shop every day. Okay? It's too much. You've got too much on that road as it is now. We don't have a build out yet. Calvin Creek, We're 5 years into a 10-year build-out. We're not even done, not even close. And we want to stack on, what, 70 more homes? Okay, where's construction going to start? On Autumn and Clove, where are they going to park? They're going to park in my driveway? They're going to park on a piece of property across from the street that I own? Where are they going to park? They're going to shut down my shop? I do business out of that shop. They're going to shut down everything. I want to read you something. Got this today from my kids' elementary school. Anybody have kids still in school here? Do you? Anybody? Raise your hand. Where are they at? High school?
Yes.
Where are they at?
High school.
Okay, nobody in elementary school, right?
No, sir.
I'm going to read this to you. TES parents got this today. Email. Unfortunately, due to the surge of student enrollment, Troutman Elementary will not be able to accommodate lunch visitors to the school this year. They're overrun. They're overcrowded. Okay? If you haven't driven down that road, you haven't been in our school system, you have to deny this request. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Am I allowed to sign up and?
Yes, yes, ma'am, yes. You can sign up right now.
Okay.
Need a pen, man?
Yeah, I got it. My name is Zoe Kilmer, and I live on Quail Haven Drive, which is a town street. The problem is, we have a sidewalk on one side, and 2 cars can pass on our street, and that's it. If UPS is delivering, and they come down about 10, 12 times a day, or FedEx, or Amazon, if they pull up and stop, if the mailman is there, 2 cars can't pass. You can't go up and you can't go down. One of you gotta wait. If we have construction on our house and they pull up and they've got all these trailers, it's a one-way street. If they're there for 3 days, everybody in our neighborhood, the 28 houses, have to wait if they meet a car. You cannot pass. Now, what's going to happen when we have, I know we're talking 77 homes, but when we have 150 cars that head out every morning to school, to work, and whatever, how do we get out of our driveways? It'll be lined up solid. What happens if one of our little children, I don't have any, thank heaven. I mean, they're all grown up. But if one of those little people want to cross to the pond to fish, they've been used to, and a car comes whipping out of that cul-de-sac and whoosh. And then on the other end, there's old people like myself and my husband that have trouble maneuvering and hurrying, wonder if we're, I just want the town to be logical, and I'm all for progress. But you gotta have a road. You gotta have a road to get them up and down. If they wanna walk it, maybe, but in a car, no way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to make mine really short. I'm David Waldman. My wife has spoken. My in-laws spoken. I'm just going to say this. That pond, it's 16 years old. 5-bedroom houses, lots of 16-year-olds. Where were you at 16 drinking beer, doing the things you weren't supposed to be doing? That's going to happen in my neighborhood. I don't have any young kids, but that cul-de-sac does.
Thank you.
Hello,
Hello.
I'm Dr. Quentin Johnson. I'm a proud resident of 172 Quail Haven Drive. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law live across the road from us, 184 Quail Haven Drive. We built our homes 4 years ago. Marie Moore Cowan is my mother-in-law. She just passed recently. She's almost 97. And so I want to talk about the the actual footprint at the cul-de-sac, the right-of-way is the entrance to our homes. Our property values are a little bit more than what these are going to be put in. But the real issue for us is, how is this road that would come in at the base of the cul-de-sac going to connect to my property? One, what's it going to look like? Right now, from the D.R. Horton side, on the other side, people are driving down Quail Haven Drive to the bottom into the cul-de-sac and coming into my driveway, because they think they can get to the D.R. Horton. And so this project moves forward. I'm going to have, so the traffic control issue for me is unique because I have 1-year-old grandchildren, 6-year-old grandchildren that walk to the end of that, we're going to be walking to the end of the driveway soon, and we're right there at that cul-de-sac. The second piece is that I've invested over $20,000 in infrastructure because my water meters, both for my irrigation and my home, is 20 feet, less than 20 feet from the cul-de-sac. And so on the other side of the right-of-way, our sewer lines go under where you're projecting to put a road. And so I need to have a clear understanding of how this construction will impact our sewer lines, our water lines, and because I've invested, and I have $13,000 in receipts for work irrigation, and we have a serious erosion problem from water coming down from the base of the Quail Haven subdivision. It goes to my property, and we've had a pond in the front of our house. So I'm not going to get into all that, but I'd like for somebody to talk to me about the reality of how that property, how the street will interface with my property, how irrigation is going to be managed, erosion. I need to be reimbursed because my irrigation starts at the beginning of the cul-de-sac. We were on hold a year because D.R. Horton did exactly the same thing that MI Homes is doing. And I have nothing against the companies. My 3 minutes is up. But I would like to say that when D.R. Horton came in and we did this, I had a similar conversation. And they said, look, we're going to put things back better than they were. They didn't. Where their trucks came and parked on our property, on my brother-in-law's property, the ruts are still there. After they decided to pull out, I addressed them. They said, not our problem. The money that it costs to put in the irrigation system for erosion, not our problem. But when we were having this conversation in this kind of forum, look, we'd be glad to talk to you. We will work with you. We'll be good neighbors, and we will help you. But at the end of the day, they didn't. I'm not saying that MI Home is that company, but as a property owner, and so right now, the front of my property is going to be a street. And so the cul-de-sac is one thing, but right now, I take care of that space, and I put significant money into it. I can verify what I've done, but I need to know how my water meters are going to be moved, where they're going to be put, my mailboxes, our mailboxes, and what happens as you're doing work, and the sewer lines that go under that right-of-way are damaged. And so I'm sorry I wasn't here at the last meeting. I'm a college president, and I had a board meeting that day, so I could not come. And so I'm very concerned that my property, what you're going to do, how it's going to be managed, and who's going to be accountable for those dollars that I've invested, and making sure that entrance is worthy of the value of my home and the other homes in the neighborhood. Does that make sense? And so it's easy to stand here and have conversation and say, we're going to do this and this is how it's going to look. But when the surveyor came out and got on my property, the surveyor came out from MI Homes. They did their stakes. and left a spray can on my property. And my homes hadn't even come. When D.R. Horton came, the first day they came to start working on my on that right of way, which is the entrance, the 150 foot entrance to my property, we had to call the County of Troutman police because they threatened my daughter-in-law and were disrespectful to my wife. And they are really nice people. And all they said was, look, this is our property. Your trucks are on our property. Get away from us. We're going to do this or that. So we've not had a good experience, and promises don't work. I'd like to see something in writing, one, that's going to protect my interest and the interest of my grandchildren. Two, I need to be reimbursed for the dollars I've invested to make my front yard not be weeds, because it's a right-of-way. Then finally, as if this project goes forward, damages to my property, work that impacts my property, who's going to be responsible? So those are issues that maybe had not been discussed before today. If I don't get answers, then I'll do whatever I need to do to get them. Any questions? And I'm a really nice guy. Thank you.
Mark, if that's okay, I'm gonna sign in.
Please. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Danny Peeler, and we live at 132 Quailhaven Drive, and I'm representing myself and my wife Bridget. Looking at the plans, and I wasn't going to speak tonight, but looking at the plans, I'm going to ask y'all that you reconsider this. I've heard main entrance on Autumn Leaf. Where that road is drawn onto Autumn Leaf, we've already discussed. That's not the place to put a main entrance in that curve. If you look at the number of houses, there's 28 on this side, 50 on this side. If that's not the current plan, then what would be the current plan? So the main entrance to 50 houses, and the way this is drawn, this comes down near the drainage down at the bottom, or the catch bowls. But the main entrance is actually Quailhaven. If those are going to be possibly 5-bedroom homes, then you've got 3 drivers. If all of them leave one time in the morning, that's 300 cars. That's 300 drives up Quailhaven. Coming back, that's another 300. Coming down Quailhaven. For the amount of homes, we came to Troutman because, what does your sign say? It's a beautiful place. We left this. This is what we left. Are you planning turnouts in your development of roads? Are there going to be little turnouts? Like where you park in turnouts?
You need to address,
You need to address the
Oh, okay.
board. Karen's gonna write down questions and we'll ask.
Okay,
them.
because I know that in a lot of the development of the neighborhoods, there's turnouts. You know, you make the intentions, you make a turnout where you can park a car off the road a little deeper. The issue I have is the parking, or the 300 out, the 300 back in, not counting what's going through there during the day out Quailhaven. We're losing a habitat. We're losing our pond. When this happens, we're going to lose our habitat. We've already lost a good bit of it. But I came to Troutman because, welcome to beautiful Troutman, or whatever your slogan says on the trucks. We came to Troutman for that reason. I'm from Lincoln County. She's from California originally. We left Huntersville to come here. And looking at this right here and the number of the traffic coming out Quailhaven, it's a good business idea, but it's not a good idea for Troutman. There's other locations that would work well for this. But the way this is laid out, if the main entrance, why did it come down low? Why didn't it just go straight across? All that's going to push everything out and down this way, and very little, because you turn up and you go out. That side will go that way, this side will go this way, depending on where you're headed. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Eric Williams. I also live in Quail Hollow. So I'd like to I guess, encourage the board to reject, just based on all the comments that have been made. But specifically, if you do decide to move forward with it, I understand that the UDO requires or suggests connectivity, and that's why this connection is being made to Quail Haven Drive. My question is it a requirement? Is it something that can be discussed? Right, the developers don't want it. It's a huge cost. There's a creek there. There's lots of elevation there. It's a very expensive bridge that'll have to be built. And clearly, the residents of Quail Hollow don't want it. They're in a neighborhood that's a cul-de-sac neighborhood. That's what they want. So is there a mechanism for the citizens of the connecting road to request that requirement be dropped by the city? And that's my question. I don't know how to answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm going to use the map here. It's Joyce Day. I'm a property owner on Autumn Lane. I want to explain a little bit. You guys haven't been out there to look, but it's hard to see when you're driving here what's ahead. There's high trees here for one thing on this property. If like a truck carrying sod that's very long in length comes down on these curves further out, it forces you off the road on Autumn Leaf because they're too long to come. And we've had trucks, and trucks go like 50 miles an hour on Autumn Leaf due to the construction. And it's like having a bullet. If they veer off the road, they're going to hit you or somebody. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Kim, did you get any? All right. I now close the public comment time. Are there any comments from the board? And I know Karen has some questions that she wrote down to answer y'all's questions as best we can.
So the two questions that I have, and if I missed one, please let me know, was from Danny, who asked, are there going to be any turnouts? And Danny, they may ask you for a clarification on your question.
I believe he may be referring to on-street parking along the street. We will not have on-street designated on-street parking spaces that bump out wider than what the 30-foot pavement is required for the width of the street.
Could
Danny,
could you qualify what you mean by that?
Say where you have your community mailboxes, or you turn out into those mailboxes. The neighborhoods where we're from in that area, and I'm sure here too, I haven't lived, but they have those extra turn-ins. And those neighborhoods make those so cars can park there kind of off the street. And they build those into quite a few DR Horton neighborhoods, MI neighborhoods. Is this neighborhood going to have those little bit of extra space? You know what I'm talking about, like where they put the mailboxes. They just don't have the mailboxes there.
There's a kiosk here directly above the creek that's going to be for the mail kiosk location that's got a turnout for on-street three on-street parking.
And Mark, they build those into some neighborhoods, not for the mailboxes, but so you can park extra cars.
Oh, no, this was just for the mailbox itself, to get your mailbox.
So no extra.
No, sir.
Okay, and then Eric had the question about can the city drop the UDO requirement regarding the connection from this neighborhood into Quail Haven, through Quail Haven Drive?
That would be a decision that the town council would have to make.
Just as a, looking at it from a different point of view, if something happens to that creek in the middle, and those 50-some homes are going to be on an island by themselves, you need fire or rescue, you're SOL. So second entrance is pretty much a requirement or request, just for medical and fire requests. So, I mean, that's something that, go ahead.
And a gate you put up across the connection to the Quail Haven Drive, Quail Hollow neighborhood, that is strictly for emergency personnel access only, so that no through traffic goes through there?
That's the question. I mean,
It's been done in New York.
I understand that, I just,
And if it get done in New York, it could get done in.
That would have, I guess, have to be town council.
It has been, yes, that is correct. It is a
We,
decision.
we
if-
can't really answer that.
How about let's not rezone it and not allow them to put houses on that
The-
side of the creek?
Yeah,
Solves it all.
no, well, the public comment time is closed. But, and there was a question, wasn't there, or comments about that particular, I think, is town, was it a town right away currently?
The town actually owns that right away, yes. That connection, and there's been a plan for Quill Haven. Actually, it was platted many years ago, and there's been plans for that connection to happen when these adjoining properties develop.
So there's enough owned by the town to build that, correct?
That is correct, yes.
All right.
I'll ask her a question, is how is water and sewer gonna get there off of Long Leaf Road?
Oh.
This,
Yes, you're correct.
there is no right of way.
Oh, yeah, sorry. You are correct.
We're sorry.
on just, I would have a surveyor survey your property.
I would have them pay for it because they gotta prove me wrong.
Hang on.
And Becca Monteith at my homes. We have had it surveyed, and I apologize.
My property survey?
Yeah, all along that road there.
You did not have anybody on my property survey. I promise you.
Sorry, the right-of-way surveyed.
You did not.
I mean, I can send you the maps, and I apologize if you haven't gotten them yet. But we do have that.
Hey, hold on.
Yes, ma'am.
We have had the right-of-way along where we'll have the water line extension and all the properties that front that surveyed. And so we can send those exhibits if needed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll do that. No problem.
Yeah, would you send that?
We sent
Of
the
course,
survey.
and we
Give him
have
the
your
information.
contact, so we'll send that to you.
We'll send it again.
Okay. So I'm assuming the Autumn Leaf is a 60-foot DOT right away? 30 foot from center?
60, I believe it's 60.
All right. We got any other comments from the board or questions?
I've got some, just the buffer, I can see what they were doing as far as, the 75 feet. Almost want to think, my personal opinion, I think it would be advantageous for them to keep it under the HOA instead of the property owners. That way they would have the, have more teeth in it.
Oh, yeah, I think so too. And the fence could be moved up
Moved up to the property line or
to the,
that.
because there's some other developments and that fence is actually on the interior of the development.
You're talking about in front of the buffer then? Put the fence on the front of the buffer? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and the comment about there is a requirement for 25-foot buffer, and I don't really see how this meets.
So if it's built by right, there's no buffer requirement.
But
So-
this is not by right.
Correct, but if they did build it as.
You're right. You're right.
Only if we rezone it to RM.
Right. You're correct. And one of the things I'd like to point out is on the future land use map, it was it was looked over and some changes made and adopted 12/8/2022, and it also has definitions. And definition for low-density residential. This land use classification is predominantly intended for detached single-family dwelling units. Densities are typically less than 2 units per acre of land in a major subdivision, more than 5 lots. Variance of lot size, housing types, price points are strongly encouraged. Associated zoning districts, RS, which is a half-acre lot. That's the only one that it has on there. And that was done intentionally to kind of prevent the trying to get around having larger lots by incorporating land that you can't use anyway.
My other concern, and I agree with you, Randy, because we did just make those new land use adoptions, and we were looking at opportunities to have more low-density, pure, in the sense, low-density residential areas, because we were, had previously approved a lot of high-density homes, and we wanted to find a good mix. But my concerns are that turning that curve in the road, and with not having any NCDOT require turning lanes, because I see that as a problem.
It says in the driveway manual at DOT that if it's a DOT facility and more than 4,500 vehicles a day are on that, then anybody, the town, the state, can warrant a turning lane. It's in there. But, I mean, that could be a condition for the safety. I think if, and I would like to see the exhibit of the sight distance, because I have been personally down that road several times, and trying to find the location or proposed location of this entrance, it was kind of, I missed it the first time. But looking at sight distance, at 400 feet, I think what minimum is 350 because it's 10 times the speed limit. So, you know, you got 350 feet at a posted speed limit of 35 miles an hour. Average speed limit on autumn leaf is way exceeds 35 miles an hour. So, I mean, you know, you're creating a potential for safety of the general public. You can institute a turning lane to keep cars in a safer movement, whether or not the TIA warrants it. As an engineer, you can do that, correct?
Yes, it can be considered.
So, you know, that, and then the over on Quail Haven Drive, it is a narrow road. And having that amount of traffic additional traffic on those right there would be is awful narrow. And putting that much traffic, doubling it, if not tripling it, is a concern for me.
I agree with that. That's a narrower road, too.
Mm-hmm.
What if there's an ambulance?
What?
Yes, ma'am.
It's, public comment time is closed. Also, what about we didn't actually, originally I didn't today, I mean, I got it today, but did you look over
I
that?
didn't see much of it. Yeah, I looked at it.
The building design, I don't know if there was changes made. Did you make changes on the, yeah, you took away the vinyl. Is that on our newer version? I don't know if it is or not, because I just got it today. And we may not have the most current one, I'm not sure. Any other Comments, questions? All right. Is there a motion for CZRM 2302?
I make a motion to deny this application due to safety and concerned citizens.
A second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we need a motion regarding consistency statement of CZRM 2302.
I make a motion of
You want me to take care of it for you?
please, my love.
Okay. With regard to case number CZ-RM-2302, rezoning to conditional zoning mixed residential, CZRM is inconsistent with the 2035 future land use map due to the proposed use and layout of the plan, in addition to safety and road concerns.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you all for coming out. It's a, town council makes the final decision. We just make recommendations. So come out for town council meeting.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Yeah, we're going to take a 10-minute break.
Were you at NC campus? Yeah. I was there.
Small one.
You still gotta go to the town council.
I know, but it doesn't really mean a lot, but it's a small one. At least you understand.
I just wanted to tell you that I'm a lawyer and handle these cases. They have done studies on this, road into both. Accidents went up by 30 years.
If you're doubling or tripling it, you're going to have potential accidents. And it's a narrow road.
In people's minds, the place to go. It's not just a drive.
No, but it's, right.
That's all they are trying to say.
No, you're good. I wouldn't say New York around here, though.
I know it's something I don't want to mention, but.
Yeah, I would agree with you. You just need to have your stuff written and ready
Yes, sir.
for town
Other than
council.
Philadelphia, right?
Because we're just gonna advise you. Town council will make the final decision. We can only advise them. So, it'll be posted on the
Wow.
website. You'll have to come speak at that meeting.
Have all your friends and neighbors show up.
Well, they did, but it's good.
Did you ride with him?
So let's start somewhere.
You got another one.
It's not really that big or long. And then we got a police them and keep them from going up there.
So what day did you go down there?
I was there Friday.
You only go again.
I couldn't find it, and I couldn't read it, and I'm not reading, I'm sorry. I can deal with numbers all day long. Words, no.
So we're talking about switching it up a little bit, but
So what club is this?
exchange. We've got one coming Friday.
So what's this, what do y'all do?
So you remember the flag?
You did like this.
Okay.
I was like, is it 45?
That blows my mind. Seeing how they took it and put it in the homeowner. I don't even think that's legal.
It is.
I mean, but how do you call it a buffer? Like Brent, you mentioned, you have to have a minimum of 25 foot buffer. That's not considered, it is a buffer, but it's not, it's the property owner owns it.
Yeah, I joined them, but I haven't really been active because it was back in COVID.
Going through the detox, I haven't had a hold of it.
Let me know because I'm when I retired from the Army, I retired from the VA. So I still have some connections with it, not here locally. And I know a little bit about protection benefits. So if I can help you out with whatever, that's good stuff there.
He's like, you don't
When
want
is the meeting?
No. This was back on there. They wanted to, but I wasn't responding.
That's good.
We have to have 15 to actually show up. Yeah. So I think right now we're at 8.
I just moved up for what?
Exchange. Exchange. The group that did the foul flags up there.
Yeah.
That was exchange.
Oh, okay.
The people that you talk to,
We're getting some traction. We're getting some traction. We've got 8 people that have joined us last week.
That's good.
Yeah.
Don't forget to sign in. Don't forget to sign in.
You know what? Did you get my text about I don't know if I sent it to you, because I never did get a response. And I was like,
Yeah.
I did.
Figuring out what's going on in the books.
I did. I sent it to you last week.
they're supposed to get all
I
that.
did text it to you, and I sent you her contact information.
Yeah,
But
I
I
think
also
they get
sent
all
her yours. Let me make sure I'm not right then.
She's forced to stay here.
I feel for you.
She gets the night off, I'm off. Although it's after bedtime now, so.
704-437-3216. Are you 880-0846? That's that phone number, 437-3216. So Tammy, I don't know why I said Michelle's. Tammy Bridges, she's right above our tire.
Here soon.
So she owns Doug and
Everybody back?
Yeah, everybody's back.
Here.
We probably need to shut that door.
Thank you.
Go to town council.
Make sure you have your tail.
I will. Thank you.
I'll send her that.
This one's gonna be.
Well, I hope you're feeling better.
All right, you ready? Okay. You ready? All right, okay, item C, case number TA 2308, Mad Monkey Garage and Tales of LKN, request to amend Article 6.2.1 and 6.2.2 of the town's Troutman UDO to allow wall murals as permitted sign type in heavy industrial and highway business districts. I will now turn it over to Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, this is a request. It's a text amendment specifically to Article 6, which is our sign ordinance. The applicants are looking to amend the ordinance that will allow them to have murals in the HI and the HB districts. The request is being made by two property owners in town, James Amico of Mad Monkey Garage and Kayla Waters of Tales of Lake Norman. They are both business owners would like a mural on their property. Mad Monkey is zoned heavy industrial. The owner had a mural painted on his building before he knew it wasn't allowed. Tales of Lake Norman is zoned highway business, and the owner is requesting that she be allowed to paint a mural on a fence on her property. Murals currently are only allowed in two zoning districts, neighborhood commercial and central business district by right, and then in the mixed use district, which is a new district that we just adopted about a year ago, they're allowed conditionally. After looking at the ordinance, town would suggest that if you all would like to consider and council would like to consider amending the ordinance, that we amend table 621 and table 622 to include murals as a permitted sign type in the HI and HB district. On a recommendation like this is really sort of a policy that the town needs to decide whether or not they want to have murals in other areas of town. I can give you an idea of what some other towns allow. There's towns that allow these only in their historic districts or central business districts. There's other ordinances that treat these things like art, and they're not even part of a sign ordinance. So those are just a couple of examples. So it's really up to the board, the town council, on how they would like to handle murals in the town. So the applicant, I believe, is here this evening, the gentleman with Mad Monkey, one of the applicants. If you have any questions of him, or I'm happy to address any questions you might have.
Thank you, Lynn. Would the applicant like to say something? You very well may, if you like.
First, let me correct the pronunciation of my name. It's Amico. And Mad is spelled with two D's. That's what makes me unique. I did do this without knowing that there was an issue with the zoning. My building is zoned heavy industrial, although it has not been used for heavy industrial in quite some time. And I'm pretty much, from what I'm told, the only business owners that's lasted there more than a year since I came into town, which was 9 years ago. So I'm all about image. I'm all about presentation. I'm all about small town. I'm a family man from back home in New York. That specifically really is art. It's not a sign. It wasn't meant to be a sign. It is meant to stand out and just be an image and carry the Mad Monkey name a step further. I see the mural across the street and all the stuff Randy used to do, and I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good idea. Maybe I should try it. You know, that's why I did it. All the Pepsi stuff on the side, I know the town had something to do with that, but I just really didn't see any issue with it. And then 3/4 of the way through, I was told there was an issue. I'm like, maybe we could address this at, a week through and not 3/4, $3,000 in, and I'm being told that it's not really appropriate according to the zoning. So I would ask you to please allow this to continue. And I mean, you can't please everybody, but I've pretty much gotten an outstanding response from everybody on that. So I got people pulling over, taking pictures with it. I mean, the town seems to love it. So it'd be a shame for this not to be allowed, considering it really isn't used for heavy industrial anymore. I can't imagine it would be an issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will now open the meeting for public comment. Yeah, probably. Kim?
By the way, I don't envy any of you guys.
guys. Been through the city work.
Hey, sir, did you sign in?
I did not, sorry. And I know I'm supposed to do that.
Good catch. Well, they didn't pronounce your name right. I wouldn't even sign it.
In the court of law, that gets thrown out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I now close the public comment time. Any comments from the board?
I have a question for staff. When it comes to the wall murals that are allowed in the CB zone, similar to across the street, is there a review process that they go through before they're painted on the buildings?
It's similar, our sign ordinance requires a permit, so staff does review it to make sure that any sign put up in town, including a mural, meets the ordinance requirements. Our UDO currently does allow murals in the CBD and the NC district, but they cannot be signage. They can't say the name of the business. They can only be really art. So we would be checking to make sure that those requirements are being met. So that's the only process we currently have.
So if it's not appropriate, it's not gonna get approved. There won't be a permit issue.
If it doesn't meet
Good.
the language in the ordinance and the requirements for murals in the ordinance, that is correct.
Okay, so we have control.
In
Yes.
terms of like color and things like the graphics?
There are some requirements in there. Not so much about the graphics, it just talks about how the images can't have anything to do with the name of they can't state a name, they can't, it's a little ambiguous in terms of certain things, but it just can't say, like he couldn't have written his name up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Painted his name on the building, that.
If I may interject, my artist knew that law before we started. And he told me, can I put your name anywhere? He stated that to me.
So it's okay to say the name of a different business, but not the business that it's being painted on?
Not
Just
to my knowledge.
The ones we have in town all have someone else's business on it. Coke, Mountain Dew,
I do not know how those are
Pepsi.
approved, so I cannot
Troutman?
speak to them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, like, those are all, you wouldn't say those were pure art without a business name in them.
You could put good, with a good wrench on the wrench.
Yeah, sure.
But to your point, I had that question as well. Across the street is zoned different.
Yeah, what is,
The zoning, I'm not worried about that part, but if we're saying that when we approve them, we don't allow business names in them, but all the ones we've approved have business names in them, like, I'm confused.
I think I read something in here about that.
Did you say that you looked at other communities?
Yeah, I looked at Davidson. I looked at Mooresville. Mooresville just looks at them as art. They're not, specifically allowed in a certain district. They're just something that has to. I think they have a review process, and it's more of considered art or community art. Davidson allows them in their central business district. I don't know what their review process is, but they do have them. They permit them in their downtown.
I'm going to state an obvious point here. What Mark here might think is art, and Mark over here might think is art. So how do they put parameters to it?
That's a good question, and that's something we'd have to look into. They probably have a review process, like maybe their design review board is reviewing them. And even again, similar with architecture, even with design review boards, what I think is attractive, somebody else may not. It's very subjective. And I think the same applies to this type of signage as well.
We got the same name, but we may like different things.
So one question on that, just, and I don't know what you spent, right? But we just talked about it 5 seconds ago, and it came right out of the guy's head, right? It didn't really have a drawing ahead of time. Maybe he discussed what elements were going to be in it.
Right.
But to that point, when Mark and Mark are looking at it, trying to figure out what's art and what's not, do you have to spend the money for a rendering up front? And
For
then-
signage, yes. Anybody who applies for a sign permit with the town, typically they have to provide us with a rendering of what that sign will look like, so we can make sure it meets all of the requirements.
We
yes.
consider the art signage.
As part of our sign ordinance, that's correct.
And back to the point that Mark was making, was considered art in 2023 may not have been considered art in 1960. The things we see on TV and what have you, I don't know if we need a little bit of review because we don't want to get too.
I think you probably have some statutes in there that weren't negotiable, right? Like some kind of a rating system. It's not rated R or whatever it is, right?
Well, even if there's, you know, to your point, 5 years down the road, does it get reviewed again?
I can see that being touchy because it's already been approved.
Too late.
Oh. I know this is going to be probably a really stupid question, but why not, because I can't remember everything that goes into every zoning area, but why add murals to additional zoning types? Why not just change the zoning to fit where we do allow murals? That makes sense what I'm asking?
Change the zoning?
Yeah, he's zoned heavy industrial. Could we not?
Have him make the request to change it to.
He doesn't own the building and there's other tenants in there, but yes, that's an option. You could rezone the property.
Rezone the
But then it would
property.
it would also make his use illegal.
Oh, okay, never mind. That's why I asked. That's why I asked, because, I mean.
He couldn't rezone it. What he's doing is not allowed in CB or NC, auto repair.
Okay, okay.
Right here, it says wall murals shall not contain advertising for an existing business or product, though generic items with a specific brand is not apparent are permitted. And this says historic trademarks are permitted, so that's probably where you get the Coke and Pepsi, because it's an historic
Possibly, yeah.
trademark.
I don't know how that was approved, but yes, you're probably right.
Well, what if we just have a stringent review process and just tack that on there, then that'll make sure that everything is copacetic.
Well, one thing you could do is require murals to be looked at by the design review board. That could be something that could be written in there.
Yeah, yeah, just so we have control.
Because just like Mark was saying, down the road, let's say 5 or 10 years, as it fades, or as any of the murals fade, do we want them touched up? Or are we just going to let them go? You know, where's the owner's responsibility in maintaining the appearance of their business?
Well, we currently actually have, in our sign ordinance, there's language in there about maintenance of signs. And technically it would apply to murals because they are considered a type of signage. We could apply that.
I think everything should be done tastefully. I'm all about tasteful. I think what she's doing is great. Image is everything when you're in business. If you guys require things to be kept, I mean, that's your job, and I agree 1,000% with that. I'm all about that. I don't want my town to be ugly, They should be kept up.
I also think maybe we could consider, just like with our signage, some limitations on the size of the murals. Some of our murals that are in CB are small and, again, the eye of the beholder, tasteful. And then there's others that are just in your face because they take up an entire wall. But I like yours, don't get me wrong. But again, just like with our sign ordinances, and we could have limitations on the size of a mural.
Would there be a review board would govern that?
Yeah, through the design review board.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, that's something that, art is subjective. And there are cities, I think there's murals in uptown Charlotte where the whole side of a building is a mural and it's very attractive. And there's even cities who kind of market themselves with the murals that they have in their downtown. I know St. Pete in Florida has a lot of murals, and
Hawaii's got the wailing walls and everything.
Yeah.
I get, I mean, maybe a percentage, like we find a balance between the square footage of the exterior of the building, and then a certain percentage of that is allowed to be
Considered to be
used for a mural.
From what I want to make a motion based on what I'm hearing, and we can amend the motion as needed, but just open discussion. I personally don't think we have enough information at this point to be able to make a decision. I think it would be something we able to understand better. To your point, let's not put it across that whole zoning district. And investigate some criteria as to how a mural is approved.
Unfortunately, the planning board really doesn't have the authority to table an item.
Okay.
You have to make a decision within 30 days of it
Okay.
going. So unless you want to call a special meeting before the planning board to hear this item, that would be your option if you wanted to do that. But, you know, you could also place the conditions on it as heard, and we could put some language together, you know, limiting square footage to a certain number of square feet. That's just something is there a number in your head you're thinking might be the right percentage, or?
No. I mean, I don't, honestly, no, I don't.
And that's why I'm wondering if DRB review might be just the way to handle it.
Yeah.
Because that could be something we write into maybe, you know, that they would be considering, the size, the colors, the, you know,
Verbiage.
location, the language, the, you know,
Could we,
content.
could we ask the design review board to come up with the criteria for, or is that passing the buck too much?
I mean, yes, I mean, I'm thinking, yeah, we could take this before them and just ask them if they have any suggestions. They meet next week, and we could put that on their agenda as an agenda item and do that before it goes before council next month. Mhm.
I have a question.
Then,
I don't know how far back this answer might go to find out, but what is the purpose and the difference of having a mural across the street because it's zoned that way, right, versus having it on my building because it's not zoned that way? Like, why is that? Why does the zoning come into play? It's commercial and it's done tastefully and it's no business name. I don't. Why is it not allowed to begin with on heavy industrial?
Well, I think your property is a little unusual in that it's in our central business district, and you're really the only industrial piece of property in that area. Most heavy industrial properties are located out, you know, on Murdoch Road, down exit 42, where you probably wouldn't have a mural. So I think that's probably why. I don't think there is any, you know, discrimination happening against your building. I just think it's a unique situation. So I think when the ordinance was written, they were just looking at, you know, what areas do we think murals will fit best in our town, and that's how that happened.
And would it be more appropriate to do like Board of Adjustment or something and make an exception for his one mural rather than writing it?
You really can't do a sign variance because that's almost like a use variance, which is illegal.
Okay.
Because what we would be saying is you can have this use or this sign on your property, but you can't have that sign on your property through a variance process, which the board cannot grant. We've thought about all these things. We've been trying to figure out how to help this gentleman.
Sorry.
So if we, I won't say pass the buck, but if we take it to the other board next week, would we have to come back with a special meeting to approve that, to get it in 30 days?
I mean, unless you all want to approve it, with the condition that the design review board would review it, place, you know, criteria on what would be reviewed. I mean, that could be part of your approval tonight.
Well, we already allow it on the other, where the other ones are.
CB.
So,
Which are zone CB.
so,
but I'm not hearing criteria as it comes to what's considered part of
I have no problem having staff look at it, taking it to the other board, and then coming for a special meeting within 30 days or less to make sure we got all the information.
I think we need more information.
Well, I mean, but I had no problem. I can't speak for everybody.
is there a
To do it that way, to make
schedule?
sure we got the information.
Is there a schedule on the calendar for that?
we would have to look at the calendar and see when we could hold a special meeting.
Can you do that on email? Can you do that by email, or do you have to have a meeting?
We can send dates out. Good question. Do
No,
we
I'm
have to
saying
do it?
to
Yeah.
review the information.
No, I think we can send out the dates and let you know what, when we can meet. And then we just have to notice it, is what we would have to do. It's a special meeting of the planning board, correct? And I mean, we can do that. That's a 48-hour notice.
So if we do that,
Council's
Yeah, because I don't think we can get I don't think we can get it before the design review board and you guys before the September 14th meeting.
That's not gonna impact you anyways, is it?
Excuse me?
You're cool with that, right?
I didn't hear.
If we miss it for another month before the actual.
I'm fine.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So that's fine. That'd be great.
I can't peel it off until then.
With you, man.
And there is another applicant on this who's not here this evening, so I don't know what their time frame is.
if we go down that road and we make a set of criteria for this zoning, shouldn't we also adjust what's in CB? Or we don't want to use what our own UDO says in CB?
I think if you're gonna change one, you gotta change them all.
Right.
Yeah.
Use it as, going to Mark's, using what we currently have and see what other municipalities and cities and towns are using, and then try to get the best of both worlds and merge it together, see what we've got. It may be the same as what we've got now, but to see exactly what we look at doing it that way. Is that correct?
I'm just making sure the scope includes CB as well,
Mhm.
so we don't have two different sets of standards for two different zonings.
Now they could just have one.
So. Are we gonna be able to schedule? It won't be before their meeting. Technically, we do it in 30 days, but it still wouldn't make any difference if we did it at a regular meeting. They won't see it any sooner.
True, but you will have met your
Requirement.
statute, yes, the requirements of the board.
Okay, when is our next
31
meeting?
days.
Okay, it's 31 days?
It's 30 days is when you have
I
to.
mean, we got
make a
31 days
recommendation.
off, so it'll be,
Wait a minute though, but it might not be. We might still meet it. The 28th, August, it'll be the 25th.
Oh, then we're good.
We'll meet it, I think.
Yeah, that's 28 days, so you should be fine.
So we can table it to the next meeting because this is on the 28th, it's on the 25th.
good catch.
Because it's the 4th,
It's the fourth.
Smartphones. So, can I make a motion that we table this for 30 days and advise staff to explore all, do it?
She said you can't table it.
Yes, we can.
Yes, it 30 days.
Within 30 days.
Okay, cool.
Till next meeting, please.
Which is,
Now, honestly, I need to look at the statute, because I don't know if it's 30 days to make a decision or 30 days to forward it to council, which I think is the problem. Because if you can't get it before you have 30 days to send the recommendation to council. Does that make sense?
so we'll
Not for you guys
recommend
to
next
make a
meeting.
decision, but for you all to make your decision. It has to be on council's desk within 30 days. That's the problem.
On their desk or at their meeting?
Well, at the meeting,
At the meeting.
When's our next meeting?
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Cuss word.
And when's council's meeting? When's council's meeting?
Oh, no, we
October
don't
the
want a
12th.
joint meeting this time.
No, not for that case.
September 14th.
Have to do a special meeting for us. Mm-mm.
And
That was just my thought. If somebody else wants to propose it.
I think we need. A lot of stupid art.
Yeah,
Some I've said that, just it.
Can we do it in 2 steps? Can we just approve what CV already has and then try to do a text amendment to update that to what's appropriate?
Yeah, you could do it that way, because the text memo, you could take as long as you want. Can we do it that way?
I'm just looking to see, okay, here, codes came. The planning board gets at least 30 days. This big long section.
I've got a lot to read.
Mm-hmm. Slam dunk.
Somebody can propose a resolution.
Next week, ain't it?
So if they meet next week, we could meet after Labor Day, we could move it before we make a decision before.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's, we can do number,
Deal.
Basically, if no written report is received from the planning board within 30 days of referral of the amendment to that board, the governing board may act on the amendment without the planning board. If the governing board is not bound, we don't know this, on recommendations.
So basically, if we don't give them a recommendation from you on 30, within 30 days, it goes with no recommendation.
It says may though, right, not shall?
Yeah, they don't have to.
Yeah, so it's up to their discretion if council
But it, Brent,
believes that we're trying to do what's best for the town and is willing to wait, then they can.
yeah. Brent had a suggestion, if we would approve this one as is, and then direct the staff to do a text amendment or to ensure a text amendment to revise it to see if it is updated, then we could do that at our leisure, could we not?
Yes, I mean, that would be my suggestion, is that you approve it with conditions. That the design review board, you know, has the authority to review. And then the item of the square footage, and any items you think that you want us to include in the ordinance, that we would go back and make those amendments before we present it to council. I think that is an appropriate recommendation from this board. And then we can put that together, and then we can send it to you individually, and you can let me know individually what your thoughts are. And if you could, you think, we can't take a vote via email. So in other words, I can't send it to all of you at once, but I could send individual emails to you, and you could give me your opinion on it. And if there's any changes, I can make those. We can definitely do it that way. We've done that before, actually.
Okay. I'm personally, it's gonna be hard to do square footage, but let's let
I know,
design,
but let's let
let's let
design
design review, weigh in on it, see what they think.
Just put that before you vote on it and name terms for me. You guys go back and forth, so I just want to understand it properly. What you're about to.
I think what they're looking to do is make a recommendation on it with some conditions, that we would make some additional changes to the ordinance, which probably won't apply to you, but that we would add some additional steps in there for people who are looking to do murals in the future.
Okay.
So while we're making these amendments, they're just saying that let's just put some things in there that give the town a little bit more control.
So Randy, you said there was an issue with the square footage?
No, was we don't know, we can.
Or the percentage
we
of
can
the
let-
area?
We can let design review, I'd kinda like to let them see what they think. That's kinda their thing.
I Now, he's using a corner of the building, so you'd use all four sides.
Correct.
To be a mural, so then that would be 50% of his building, could be minus the windows, be less than 50%, and that would still be.
That said, there's a lot of murals out there that take up the whole mural.
And
For better or
And-
worse.
that's kind of a matter of opinion. I mean, I really don't have a problem with some of them, but it's,
And some people think they're in your face.
yeah.
Marker.
So we, I think we have to leave a little room for creativity. All right, is there a motion?
Yeah, I'm writing it for you.
Okay,
How's that?
all right, we'll give you time.
Writing this all out for Kim.
You got her spoiled.
I know, I like her a lot. Okay, I think I'm ready. Let me guys know.
All right, whenever
Okay.
you're ready.
All right. Okay. Recommend approval of text amendment case number TA-23-08 as presented with the following conditions. Murals must go through the design review board for size, content, language, color, maintenance, etc. Town will look at other municipalities for input. Text amendment will apply to CB as well.
I think we were gonna start with our own NCB as a starting point as well.
Yes.
Then we're gonna look elsewhere just to.
Yep. Incorporate the two potential.
No.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Oh, or any, well, okay, I was gonna ask for discussion, but I think we've discussed it to death. All right, okay, we need a, yes, now you got it right.
Oh,
Consistency.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. I make a motion regarding consistency of this action, that this text amendment is consistent with the 2018 strategic plan and the Unified Development Ordinance and is reasonable and in the public interest as it allows wall murals in additional commercial districts, making this type of signage on all commercial buildings when the following conditions are met. Murals must go through the design review board for size, content, language, color, maintenance, etc. The town will look at other municipalities for input. Text amendment will apply to our CB districts as well. And we will look at our CB districts as the starting point. Yes? I wrote all that down for you.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. D, case number TA 2309, requested by staff to amend UDO Article 5.1.5 requiring a landscape berm on perimeter of all new single-family residential subdivisions where adjacent to a public street. I will now turn it over to Lynn.
Thank you. This is a text amendment that's being requested by staff. We are requesting that the board consider amending Article 5.1.5 of the UDO. This is the landscape section, which specifically addresses berms. We are requesting that landscape berms on the perimeter of all new single-family subdivisions where adjacent to public streets be required. We've recognized as staff that the community has a desire for increased streetscape throughout the town. And we feel that buffering new single-family subdivisions on our main roadways will help with this and increase the aesthetics of the town. We feel like it'll actually be twofold. Not only will it make our town look more attractive along our roadways, but also it will protect new homeowners from the noise and light that comes from these roads. If the town would like to pursue the requested amendment, we would recommend that Article 515, Type A landscaping, that is Section D be added as follows. That a landscape berm will be required on the perimeter of all new single-family residential subdivisions or adjacent to a public street. Specifications for the size, height, and required landscaping for the berm can be found in the Troutman construction standards. I did discuss this with our town engineers. I felt like rather than having a lot of information here at the buffer section about how the berm should look, we really need a cross-section for that. And we do have a construction standards manual that we have for our street cross-sections. With the earlier applicant was showing several of those. So we would create one of those for this berm. So that will be part of this. That's a policy document, so that doesn't have to go before the board or council. We'll just create that and put that there. But that's how we thought that would be the best way to handle it. That's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. And again, staff's the applicant, so there's no applicant involved in this request.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll now open this up for public comment. Kim doesn't have anybody either. I'll now close the public comment time. We technically have to do that. Okay. Is there any comments from the board?
I got a question on maintenance. How is that going to be, mowing's one thing, and you got your landscaping that's going to be on that, correct?
We would require these to be maintained by the HOA. Like,
Okay.
this would not be a town-maintained berm at all. It would be part of the landscape requirement for the development. Just like now, a lot of developments have landscaping at their entrances and along, behind them. We don't maintain that, the applicant does. And we actually have a new ordinance in I think we adopted in the last year or so, where street maintenance within the right-of-way is the responsibility of the property owner.
The other question I have is, like on Bell's Crossing, that subdivision at that intersection.
Those really nice berms, yeah.
They were 8 feet tall. Now they're 4 foot tall. How do you ensure that the settlement, when they put them in, they loosely compacted it? Now it's compacted. So how do you restrict or ensure that the design standard has been met throughout the life of the berm?
That's a good question, and I'll get with our engineers on that and make sure that we include the correct engineering requirements in that cross-section, because I'm assuming there's some sort of lining material that has to be added to those, or I'm not an engineer, so.
It'd be the compaction, plus you also got to look at the drainage, because you're creating a drainage problem in certain cases. So drainage and maintenance is probably going to be your biggest hurdles. That's all I got.
I guess there could be, because of drainage, there could be exceptions to where you'd have to.
Swimming hole.
Yeah.
Well, they took at the corner, opened the berm back up and put a box in and a drainage through the berm, and then built it back up to the ditch on the outside.
I think there's a really good example a little further down the street on the right. I don't know the name of that neighborhood, but.
Yeah, that was.
You know what I'm
Yes,
talking
ma'am.
about?
That's Bell's Crossing.
Yes.
Bell's
That's
Crossroads
a great
is.
example of a berm, and I think that one might undulate. Is that the word where it differs in height?
Undulate.
Undulate, thank you. I knew the librarian would know that one. But yeah, that might even be something we might want to look at in the cross-section too, is rather than just making it a one height, make it kind of a little more interest.
So the cross-section, I'm not familiar with the construction standards, so you're looking to create a cross-section to add to it?
Yes, we would do
So that would, okay.
And we already did where we added sidewalks, correct? We did that more fairly recently, I think. Not to this, but the sidewalk plan or the plan for the mobility plan.
You're talking about the pedestrian plan?
Yeah, which is, I don't know if that's actually got teeth in it yet or not.
It's been adopted by council, yes. Not the mobility plan, we're still working on that, but the pedestrian plan was adopted.
So the developers will now have to build the sidewalks on,
If they're called for on their side of the street, yes, that's correct.
This would be in their buffer though, right?
well, they would have to, I guess the buffer has to be,
If
that'll
there's
take
a-
into account, sidewalk has to be there and buffer has to be behind it.
That is correct.
The berm, I mean. Does any of this stuff take into account widening of roads that we know are gonna be widened? To allow for any of that?
You know, that's really up to the developer. A lot of times they look at that type of thing. Because like somebody mentioned tonight, we were talking about the right-of-way width being 60 feet, and the gentleman in the back room said, oh, there's only 20 feet of pavement. Well, we all know that's not the right-of-way. The pavement is not the right-of-way. So a lot of times they will build these things, you know, it just depends. The sidewalk a lot of times is in the right-of-way, but the berm would not be. We would not allow the berm within the right-of-way, but the sidewalk typically is in the right-of-way because it's maintained by the town or DOT.
Yeah, I'm just kinda concerned that, I see some things down 21 that look like they're gonna be a problem when the road gets widened.
What do we do in the case, assuming you can only put the sidewalk in the right of way, if you come in and you do widen that road 5 lanes, let's say, what do you do with the sidewalks? Do you try to take additional right of way and make sidewalks there?
The
Or what do we do?
DOT moves the sidewalk, yes.
But that would be in the berms.
I guess, I mean, this is maybe a little different situation, but, the buildings are sometimes in the space, you're gonna need that space. They build them too close to the road, the highway. Is there something we can do about that in the future?
You have an example of a berm that's too close? Are you talking
Well,
about
no,
berm
not the
buildings?
berm, but I guess I'm getting off on something else. It's, you know what I'm saying, Mark?
The house
How
is
does
in-
that work?
The house is in the road.
Houses or whatever is being built.
When you have a house that is within, you got a 10-foot setback, and your road is going to go from 2 lanes to 5 lanes, DOT just bought the house.
That's the concern I've got.
They just bought the house.
That makes it so much more expensive to widen the road.
Thank you
Or
for your
they'll shift
taxes.
it, they'll shift, or they shift to the other side where there's no house, is what'll happen too. A lot of times, if, you know, if you've got a house on one side and there's nothing on the other, they just shift it. You know, path of least resistance.
Like on 21, where they're gonna widen 21, at Fort Dobbs, north of Statesville.
Right.
They picked which side was going to be the least, yeah. There's a church on one side, which you don't touch, you go on the other side. That kind of, you know, dictates.
I probably got off the subject
It will.
here. Yes, I'm sorry. Well, let's get back on the subject. I'll get back on the subject. Okay. We need a motion regarding text amendment TA 2309.
Make a motion to approve text amendment for case TA 2309 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I'd like to just add the maintenance in the cross section. If that's okay. Go ahead.
Action.
Well, just the maintenance of it, which would be either the settling or compaction, just make sure that the engineer, whoever the cross section dictates what the height's gonna be the height forever.
Does that need to be in a motion, or is that's really a different document, correct?
The cross-section will be, yes.
That just, they just need to know, or you're noting that?
Yes, got it right here.
Okay.
Stating that brings a question, who approves that final document? Once it's been,
We can bring it here if you'd like us to. I mean, like I said, it's a policy, or the council. It'd probably be more of a council issue than plain. It would probably be more of a council item than a planning board item. Council adopts policies, not the planning board, so it would go to council.
my question was, do we want to take a last look after it's been constructed?
But we don't really get to, do we? Or do we?
I mean, I guess we can, I don't know that you all can deny it.
we can look at it and make comments about it.
As a courtesy, could you please?
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Other business? It says, I'm sorry, consistency statement. We need a motion regarding consistency statement of TA 2309.
Sure, no. I make a motion regarding consistency of this action, that this text amendment is consistent with the 2018 strategic plan and the Unified Development Ordinance, and reasonable and in the public interest, as it would provide language that will contribute to the town's ability to create an attractive streetscape.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Other business? It says none, but is there anything we need to discuss?
I actually have a question.
Okay.
And I don't know, it might be a Mark question or a Lynn question or something. When we have these neighborhoods, I live at the end of a cul-de-sac, and eventually one day, I am sure, it will connect to another road. When we're looking at neighborhoods like this where we're adding connectivity, are speed humps or bumps or lumps an option to put in to help in that traffic movement?
If you have a traffic calming policy, yes.
Which is something that the council has been talking a lot about lately. We do have one, well, actually, it's not, let me back up. They have been talking about putting in speed humps in a couple of areas of town. That's come up at several council meetings. I don't know where they are with that. And I do think we have some sort of an ordinance. I think they've been discussing maybe making changes to it or updating it. We have a policy,
Okay.
so that's something that we do.
Okay, all right, at least it's on somebody's radar.
It is, but I don't anticipate that it will just be something that the town goes and puts in on streets, just because.
Sure,
they're-
absolutely.
You know, it has to be warranted and a reason for it.
And
And the property owners usually on that street have to agree to it, the ones that will be most involved.
But your PD and your fire are gonna hate it, and they're gonna say no.
So, any need?
And there's other ways to calm traffic other than speed humps. You can narrow streets, you can put in landscape medians, you can put on-street parking, and there's other ways to slow traffic down.
Right.
One that they just had a request for. Actually, a lady from the rescue squad came, and they consulted with the fire department also, and they didn't have issues.
Really?
That's what they said.
I know a local city that is replacing the front ends of fire engines because they're braking to,
The lady actually came with it from the rescue squad and said that.
good job. I mean, it's a, yes, ma'am, okay.
So all the new developments, if there is a cul-de-sac or a future stub, there's a sign that tells everybody when they buy it, if I'm not mistaken, in our UDO, there have to be a sign saying it's a future street.
We do have those, yes, and they're recorded as well. And it's really is a catch-22 because so many people are so concerned about traffic. But the reason we put all these street connections and stub streets in is to provide for ways to people to get around in other areas. Because I'm sure you all are familiar with the word urban sprawl and the fact that subdivisions are just built as their own little islands and all the traffic funnels out onto these main roadways. So that's what causes the traffic backup. And then when you try to make these connections, the people that live in those little islands don't want to share. So it's difficult. It is a difficult situation, and I understand why people don't want their peace and quiet. They don't want that disturbed, and there's a lot of fear. But connectivity, because if you look at old cities like downtown Charlotte, where all the roads connect and you can get around different ways, and not that there's still not traffic, but you have other options. But
there's some of them, like where Karen's talking about, may or may not be an option, depending on who owns it and how it was done originally. A lot of them can't be connected to, especially the older ones, unless somebody sells some property. All right, any other questions, comments? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.
There's a little